Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movie and television discussion in the multiverse. I'm your host, Adam Porchers, and joining me today, he's ready to throw your kids on the fire as well. Sweet Chauncey Kovacs from the internet.
Hey, how you guys feel about the first 20 minutes of Up?
And he too is quite the fun guy, Bruce Leslie.
I'm a prickly pear, and this show takes cauliflower ear to a whole new level.
Whenever I see that UFC, I'm like, man, you just put a little shredded cheese on top of that bad boy and eat them ears on up, everybody.
Thank you.
No,
No thanks.
Yucky.
You don't mess with
thank
that. You don't mess with the cauliflower ear guy, though. Even though that is kind of maybe a sign that he's been punched in the head quite too many times. He has been punched in the head, whereas you more than likely have not been punched in the head. Ergo, run away from that man.
And hard enough to where his ear looks funny.
Looks all jacked up. Nah, don't mess with that guy.
And he's still walking around.
And he wants you to know about it, too, with his tap-out shirt. Circa 2003.
That's true.
Well, welcome back, everybody. This week, we're talking about the first 3 episodes of the latest hit show on HBO, The Last of Us, from the guy who, with the name Neil Druckmann, which, by the way, I found out later this week it was his actual name. For so many years, I'd actually just been listening to Video Game Donkey say Neil Druckmann, and I thought it was just a made-up silly name because he does that sometimes. I'm just like, yeah, that's a stupid name. And then it's like, oh, snap! That's the cat's real name. Sweet.
Okay. My goodness, man! You're too much.
But we'll be talking about all of that coming up here. Before we do want to say thank you to everybody who supports this here program over at patreon.com/HMP. Those people get the pre-show, post-show, Dinger Zone, and of course, you get to vote on stuff that we watch every month. Sean, we got a new person here. No, I'm just kidding. I just wanted to have you have a heart attack for half a second.
you have succeeded, so thank you.
I just wanted to I wish I could have seen his face when it is. I was like, huh? What?
You couldn't see, but I was literally just shuffling notes. Like I don't have that. I don't have that.
Bartleby the Scribner Jones is our newest patron.
Ooh, at the $20 level, no less. Bartleby, thank you so much for that. If you'd like to be like Bartleby Jones, hit us up, patreon.com/HMP. We thank all of you guys for helping us out every week.
I literally had the talk with myself in my head of, you are so unprofessional. This is so unprofessional.
Why? Just want to, keep you on your toes a little bit. All right, everybody, here is the trailer for The Last of Us. That's the wrong one. Let's do the correct one. Gee whiz, I can't do anything today.
If you don't think there's hope for the world, why bother going on?
You haven't seen the world, so you don't know. You keep going for family.
I'm not family.
No. You're cargo.
Why are you so important?
Somewhere out west, they're working on a cure. I think what really impressed them was the fact that I didn't turn into a monster.
If she so much as twitches, don't.
Okay.
If I'm taking you with me, you do what I say when I say it. You got any advice on the best way west?
Yeah, go east. If you come this far, then you know what's out there.
You're not gonna scare us.
Scared him?
You have a greater purpose than any of us could have ever imagined.
Be careful who you put your faith in.
It might not be her father, but you were someone's.
You trust me?
Alrighty, that was the trailer for The Last of Us. You know what time it is.
It's time for Bruce's Comic Book Connection.
Oh, let's see what he's got for us this week.
Well, The Last of Us is not based on a comic, but rather an interactive electronic game commonly referred to as video game.
Hold on, let me write this down.
Developed by Naughty Dog and distributed by Sony on their fancy PlayStations, I guess, The Last of Us debuted on consoles in 2013. In the game, you play as Joel, and your job is to safely smuggle Ellie across the country. Oh, and you also have to fight cannibalistic creatures infected by a mutated fungus. That sounds like our ex-wives, doesn't it, guys?
Yeah.
Am I right? You know I'm not wrong.
Boom.
Well, anyway, I think Naughty Dog is also the company that brought us Uncharted, so this is kind of a spiritual cousin to that Marky Mark flick that we saw. Now, the game is played in third person, which I kind of like because I always get disoriented in first-person shooter games, and I think those all belong on VR nowadays anyway. But the plot of the game, or at least the setup as described by Wikipedia, seems to follow the first episode of the show pretty closely, except that it starts in 2013 instead of 2003. The video game... Oh, excuse me. Sorry. Wow.
He's caught on. He's got the infection. He's oh my God. Down the hatches.
Don't kiss him.
Let me put on my face mask. Hold on. The video game creative director Neil Druckmann had an idea to merge the gameplay of Ico from 2001 in a story set during a zombie apocalypse, kind of like that of George A. Romero's Night of the Living Dead. Now, with a lead character similar to John Hartigan from Sin City. So the lead character was going to be a police officer. He'd be tasked with protecting a young girl. However, due to the lead character's heart condition, players would often assume control of the young girl, reversing the roles. The Last of Us game designer Ricky Combier cited the video games Ico and Resident Evil 4 as influences on the game design. He said the emotional weight of the relationship needed to be balanced with the tension of the world's issues, stating that they wanted to take the character building and interaction of Ico and blend it with the tension and action of Resident Evil 4. The Last of Us is the 5th highest rated PlayStation 3 game on Metacritic. Reviewers praise the character development, story, and subtext, the visual and sound design, and the depiction of female and LGBT characters. The game appeared on several year-end lists, with the Best of Games of 2013 receiving wins at the 41st Annie Awards, the 10th British Academy Video Game Awards, the 17th Annual DICE Awards, which I imagine is something Andrew Dice Clay does on his Twitch channel, and then the Game Developers Choice Awards. The Last of Us spawned a media franchise. A 4-issue comic book miniseries, The Last of Us American Dreams, was published by Dark Horse Comics from April to July in 2013, written by Druckmann and illustrated by Faith Aaron Hicks. So I guess there was a comic book connection after all. I probably should go back and revise this first draft before the show. Anyway, here's where I'll insert something asking Adam about a list.
That's right, everybody. Let me sell you on this first 3 episodes of this HBO show, because this sucker's got everything. It's 1968. We've got big heads smoking cigarettes, pandemic talk, fungi talk. We got big time table setting going on in this first scene. Cut to 2003. We see how it all got started. Eggshell eating, watch repairing, waking up to utter chaos. We got zombie grandma. You'll question your own humanity during a truck ride downtown with a surround sound mix that puts you right in the middle of that action. People ask why there's so many trucks in the USA. This is why you do it. You are not going around in the apocalypse in a Kia Sorrento, buddy. It's not going to happen. We got a lot of Deus Ex moments, maybe too many. Major character death, cut to 20 years later, and we're only 20 minutes into the first episode. But don't worry, we'll spin our wheels a little bit later. We got post-apocalyptic Boston, never looked better, says I. We got body burn pits, drug deals. We got Olivia from Fringe. You remember Fringe, don't you? You should. That show was good. We got a kid who's been bit but not infected, unless you count being infected with a potty mouth, which I do.
Oh, sick burn.
Also, has anyone seen Bella Ramsey and Miles Teller in the same room together? Are we sure this isn't just his next role? Super impressive if I'm right on this one.
Oh, dude, sweet.
We got hiding crap in floorboards, pointing at maps, construction corner with Joel Miller, face pummeling, Depeche Mode. We take a trip to Indonesia to learn we have 0 chance of beating this thing. Bite marks, hazmat suits, watching people sleep, backpack sandwiches, being wowed by cars, getting bit, blowing yourself up with your brand new friends, and the biggest gay libertarian love story I guess everybody was clamoring for. This show has everything.
We didn't know we wanted it, but boy, did we need it.
I guess so. The world's I'll talk. Well, that's a whole episode itself. But had you guys ever played any of the games before? I was always an
never
Xbox
had.
boy.
I have zero familiarity, even though we're a PlayStation family. I'm sure my kids have probably dabbled in it. I have no familiarity with it.
I don't know why this is the case, and I can't believe I'm about to admit this on air because it's the saddest thing ever. But whenever I am trying to get stuff done, but I also want the TV on, what I'll do is I'll go to YouTube and I will watch the cut scenes from video games a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
I started doing that with Star Wars years ago, and it has paid off immensely. I went to The Last of Us to see what that story was because I kept hearing how great that story was. And apparently I only watched the cutscenes of The Last of Us 2, not the first one. And so I know everything that happens in the second one. And but I didn't know anything about the first one. And so I knew what to expect, but I did not know what to expect at the same time because this show, I don't know about you guys, but this show, the first 2 episodes, I'm like, this is pretty good. But this isn't a show that I can watch on Sunday evening, because it's so depressing. And then
lead you into the Monday morning feeling great.
Right. So that's why we have changed, and now we just watch Poker Face on Sunday night before we go to work the next day. But then today I watched the 3rd episode, and my mind is completely changed about the show. But where I was like, it's pretty good, it's not great, and now I think that the show that episode specifically, it's going to win the Emmy. There is no doubt about it. Nothing is going to beat it.
Episode 3 is going to be where this show really begins.
Yes.
So it has now gotten all the opportunity in the world laid out for it. So what it does from here is going to define what the show is. But I don't know how many people even are going to remember the events of episode 1 and 2 because 3 just hit so hard.
All right. Yeah. Well, let's since we're going here first. I mean, because I let me say this right ahead, just because I want to front load it a little bit. I really like this show. I am not as wild on the 3rd episode as everyone else is. I agree, it's a really great episode. I agree, the story is really great. The acting, everything in it is great. I don't know that it belongs in this show, and I think it is a one-off that is weird in this show, and because these characters aren't coming back, I don't think there's any real
in my research
to
for
them.
the
it's
comic
good, but
in my research for the comic book connection, this is a character from the video game. He's being depicted fairly accurately, I think. So I guess maybe you feel like it didn't belong in the video game.
Maybe again, from what I'm to understand, they changed some stuff. I don't know. I'm just headline reading, and I'm not reading giant articles about a game that I actually would like to play one day. But from what it just for me, for sitting in here, like I said, I liked it as a whole, and if I watched it as a short movie, I would say fantastic. I don't know that it belongs within the 3 episodes that we've seen in the show as a whole. Like I said, I don't know what comes after, but as good as it was as a standalone piece, I don't know that it belongs.
I gotta say, my mindset has also been set up in a certain way because I've really been enjoying this kind of obscure show that I found online that's kind of anthology style. So I don't mind going into an episode thinking this is a short film that has threads that ties into the overarching thing.
And if they do, I'll leave my lunch if there's things that happen later on that directly tie into this. I'll 100% cop to it. But as it feels now, I'm just like, it felt like a bottle episode for a brand new television series, 3 episodes in, and it seemed like an odd move.
All right, let me stop you both there. Because here's the big thing with this show, right? Is why does this show exist? What are they trying to tell us? I say this all the time when it comes to our dumb superhero movies, because it's like, what are they trying to say anything different here? And what this show has been beating you over the head with, in words, not deeds, is you don't need to save the world, you just need to save one person. Mm-hmm. And that has been the theme of the show from basically minute 1 of the show. What the 3rd episode achieves is what the show is trying to get across to you, is that you don't need to save the world, you just need to save one person. And this episode the third episode is the one where it's like, this is what we're talking about. And this is what Joel needs to do. And, Joel hasn't succeeded twice now. And now he has a new person that he is going to try to save.
And of course, what makes it work so well as a story element is that it's the kind of allegory where we're laying it bare here because we're in this post-apocalyptic world. But, you could really see somebody taking that attitude into the world we live in, that like you just need one person to protect and to take care of, and that gives your life meaning.
Yes.
So, it works in that post-apocalyptic setting, but of course it's the universality of storytelling as we want to see, how does this story apply to my life that is in no way in this situation?
I just feel like it's a really, and here's the thing, I'll even crib it with this, of like, I think it's a weird spot, third in line to put with your brand new show, and put that one third in there that, like, for the majority of the episode has nothing to do with your characters, your main characters that you will be following from this episode post, because these characters are gone, no longer with us. So,
well, you're welcome to think that way.
I'm not, and I could, like I said, I could be wrong, and things might be different. I'm glad to throw my hands up and say that I'm wrong. But
I mean, just plot wise, they also achieved something in this episode, which is
they do. But you didn't need to, like, not for nothing. And again, we got a good product out of it. But like, you spent 45 minutes telling me a story that ultimately, at the end of the day, didn't really need to be told from these main characters' perspectives is all.
Boy, so I don't know if you can find it. It's really tough to find. That there's the streaming show called Atlanta, Adam. that you should watch, because it very much is anthology, where you're like, this story doesn't need to be told, but it absolutely is telling a story that goes along with what they're trying to communicate. So it's like this unknown thing. I think that some people discovered it during COVID or something, but it has a lot of people that became bigger stars later on, I guess. Like a Liam Neeson has a spot in it. Must have been from before he was really known, but you got to check it out.
For those of you that had that on their bingo card for this episode of HMP, I can't imagine how astounded you are to be able to fill that bubble in of Bruce talks about Atlanta on the. No, it's good.
You guys know I'm a Donald Glover fan.
The biggest we know.
Which is so weird, because how had you not seen Atlanta?
Yeah, all the way until
Donald Glover.
Yes, I mean, basically, I just watched like Crunchyroll and Fox News, so it hadn't come on yet.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I see. Okay.
That is one of the best combinations I've ever heard. Crunchyroll and Fox News.
That's a weird
guys.
Diet.
All I know is if we had more tasty noodles and less Obama, the world would be better, right? Am I right?
Less Obama, more One Punch, please. Thank you.
Oh man, I'm gonna get all the hate mail. I shouldn't have gotten political.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh, it's so good.
That's okay. Pedro Pascal has been on a tear. Let's talk about this guy, because like we talked about him on on the Wonder Woman show, of like seeing the teenage Pedro Pascal play a detective in bad fitting clothing and everything. Mm-hmm. Boy, we've come a long way in that amount of time, haven't we?
He really looks like more heroic though than he has lately too. He seems to have some kind of maybe reborn passion for this role. I'm just kind of like seeing a little. I'm
not gonna lie to you.
A little extra smirk out of his face or something.
Yeah,
I think he's really into it.
I think he put on a couple of muscle lbs.
Yes, without a doubt he has.
But I think that's one of the main reasons.
He's been shooting up with some Stallone sweat.
Yes. Yes, I believe so.
Tapped from the source.
Boy, he seems to have 30 extra pounds of muscle. How'd that happen?
You go over there and lick Sylvester Stallone, will you?
We saw him in that, what's his name? Kamal Nujani coming out of Sylvester Stallone's trailer, and they look totally different.
So, one of the things about Pedro Pascal, because I didn't, and yet here's another thing from the third episode, is that I wasn't entirely on board with the connection between Ellie and Joel until the third episode. Like, I believe it now, and it wasn't like it was bad before. But the thing that I was afraid I was going to run into is this going to feel like The Mandalorian at all? Because it is him with a kid again.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel like that.
So,
and it's not just because the simple fact of him not caring, but he dismisses the call to action with her far more than twice, and they're still here. And I like the dynamic between them. I think she's great in this show, and I think that she adds something. But like having her be a motor mouth and actually, honest to God, be annoying is working for this series.
Mm-hmm.
Now, back when, some more of the research I did, and I was doing that comic connection, video game connection, a lot of fan casting in 2013, 2014, when the game was hot, was Elliot Page as Ellie.
Oh, my Lord. She's 35 years old playing a child.
Well, at the time, it made a little more sense.
She's 4 foot nothing. She weighs 80 nothing pounds, or he weighs 80 nothing pounds. I apologize for the misgendering there. But I could see like Juno era Elliot Page playing Ellie.
No way.
When did Juno come out? What year was Juno?
90.
Like my years are all messed up now.
4 or 5?
Okay, so it was still a few years before 2013 then. So yeah, you're right.
And the other thing to it too is that there's so much baggage with Elliot Page, and I don't mean that as like a why has he got to stir up all this trouble? Why can't he just be a girl? Like what I mean is that like
2014 Elliot Page too, so
right? But what I'm thinking is that you already have that actor on in Juno, that actor is in Hard Candy, that actor like had done so many things previously that he's already bringing to the table.
Yeah,
that like the nice thing about having the little queen be her is that I literally only know her from that one thing.
Yes, and I think the creators of the Last of Us video game agreed with you, Sean, because in the Fallout games they went out of their way to physically alter the character to look less like Elliot Page because they did not like that comparison.
Good.
And then was in a video game. What was that other video game? I don't know. There was one where they did a lot of
Pac-Man?
mocap or something. No, I forget it.
Miss Pac-Man?
Hubert.
It's the Cubert. That was a Gene Hackman movie from 1979.
Popeye Doyle is Cubert.
I'm not saying that.
No,
whatever.
That's dumb.
Whenever he's cursing.
I'm just picturing Gene Hackman with a prosthetic nose cone.
Oh man. Bring us back for one more, Gene. That's all we want. Just the one more where you play
just
Cubert.
For the Cubert reboot.
You trust me when I tell you I've seen pictures of recent Gene. You don't want him back.
By the by, first of all, it's funny that we say that. Like, it may have been 1 or 2 days ago, maybe 3 by the time this podcast comes out, but it literally was just Gene Hackman's birthday, believe it or not.
Nice.
So happy birthday, Gene. One more one, but not whatever this Cubert
He's
movie
the only
is.
Lex Luthor that the Popeye chicken restaurant claimed to have named themselves after. So good for him.
Makes sense. I gotta tell HBO something. I love you, HBO. You want to know why? It's not always because of your content, because sometimes it's crap, but your audio is just banging, son.
Yeah.
I
noticed
love
that too.
it so much. Like this car chase scene with the Atmos sound and just these helicopters flying above. Sweet baby. It was so intense. I love that so much, and they've done a really fantastic job, because that's what's so cool about video games too, right? Because these days especially, you're playing a movie. The Last of Us was essentially a movie that you participated in as a video game. And taking that visceral experience, because that's why the video games, have been making so much money these days, is because, you're essentially in that film, if you will. And to be able to do that with regular narrative storytelling, to put you in that seat, with all of this chaos going around and doing the kind of sort of one shot from Children of Men inside the car and stuff like that. Really just top-notch stuff going on all around here, and just bringing you into that world so fast. Like I said, all of that happens. Like, we cut to 20 years later, 20 minutes into the first episode. So much happens in that first 20 minutes.
Well, I watched it on my phone with those speakers in the phone, so you can't really notice the sound as much on those.
If you had the AirPods, those have at least
no, I was just using the built-in speaker in the phone, and then I do the thing where you make the movie small in the corner so you can play like solitaire.
So you can do the thing that makes
That's good.
Yeah, it's pretty good though. I like
That's a time saver.
Oh, absolutely.
And brain teaser, no less. But I don't know that I knew that the daughter would go, but I think I felt that. going
Yeah,
into the
I
thing?
didn't know that either, but that definitely was coming down because, like, how come that girl isn't on the poster? Like I had that kind of thing, you know.
I think I had a realization because I said something to you, Sean. I was like, hey, I saw that Thandie Newton's daughter's in this, and for some reason they weren't promoting her. And you're like, oh, she's in it. And I was like, okay. Something must happen in the first episode. Because you're like, oh, yeah, she's in it.
She
And
had a
she's
week
great.
Yeah, she really was. She was
She
like,
looks a lot like her mother. It's
She
kind of
does.
uncanny.
She does.
and at the same time too, if you're thinking that Pedro at a construction job got her, none of these things are starting to mash up. I don't know
Say what?
if Pedro
about
Pascal
construction.
was hitting Tandy Newton. If
Oh,
that's-
I see what you're
If
saying.
that's the universe we're living in, where he has this job and I don't know what she's doing, but it's got to be better than that.
Well, he
CEO
still
of
look
Apple.
he still looks like Pedro Pascal. I mean, he's
he's
going to do just fine. He's going to do just fine at that work site.
I don't know. I think he's only good if he's one of those guys that you gotta rough him up. You gotta have he's got to look dirty. He's got to have the beard on him and everything. Because you shave that off, you comb up the hair and everything. Pedro Pascal goes to Peter not so hot after that.
I think Pedro Pascal, you meet him and you like him, but then once you see him dancing, you love him because you know the guy can really cut a rug at the bar.
I do hope we get to see him play guitar at some point during this show because
Oh, does he play guitar?
Oh, you're going to.
well, the video game itself has almost kind of a mini game thing where you're playing
Yeah.
guitar or whatever. So I was just like,
He
I
is
feel
from
like
Texas.
I hope we throw that in here, and that's what I think is actually very cool. Let's talk about this for half a segment. That Druckmann is actually the guy behind the video game and behind this television show, and how rare that is that actually happens.
Well,
maybe a
because-
plus.
Because they basically had the run of the place, right? I mean, because The Last of Us is so unbelievably successul,
Yeah.
they got to call the shots. It really wasn't the execs at Sony calling the shots on this. It feels kind of like, listen, we need you to do your magic over here now too. And then he was like, great, here are my demands. Is really what it feels like while watching this show.
Yeah.
Because they are spending so much money on this show. Just the first 3 episodes alone, like I'm pretty sure that third episode is on a backlot somewhere, but boy, they have spent so much money.
Like
It's
the
it's
flooding in the
opposite.
second episode alone.
It's the inverse of what happened on Walking Dead, where it was like, okay, we're not spending any money after this pilot. Now it's
Oh man,
now forever and ever we'll be here.
this is such a different story. Thank goodness from Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Well, let's
But-
take a little hint from that. Talk about just the differences and stuff. Obviously, you've got your regular zombies. These are zombies, if not in lack of name. They certainly exhibit
Yeah.
those
They're cauliflower
characteristics, if
zombies.
you will.
Cauliflower zombies.
Cauliflowers, yeah. So I mean, it's all. But I like it. I like the infected stuff. I like how the show really has, really doubled down on how much of like, no. As much as you think that this whole thing is going to be about a cure, they say this girl's got a cure, but it keeps telling you, no, there is no cure, which I think is great. I really like that juxtaposition of saying we have hope here, and other sides continually telling you, no, you do not. You do not have hope.
You know, a very comic book style story there with the person being the cure, the savior for humanity. Almost a little like Why the Last Man feel to it if it had been told properly.
Oh boy, man, what a bummer that was.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to talk about like bummer with Walking Dead? That's nothing even remotely close to the bummer of Why the Last Man.
Oh man, that never happened. Never happened.
Well, they killed
Yeah,
at least they killed it early instead of having it go in 6 to 8 seasons. You know what I'm saying?
you're right.
They had the
about
common decency to take it out to the back and shoot it.
that kid from Banshees of Inisherin looks real smart these days.
Yeah. Of course, if he had taken the role, it would have been a good show. So, like the whole Schrodinger's role.
So did you guys when with the first episode how did you watch this basically? Did you go from first episode to second episode to third, or did you space it out?
Mine was
I
all
watched-
week to week.
I
Yeah.
watched the first episode, went and grabbed some dinner, so took about an hour off, and then came back and watched the next 2.
Oh
So
wow.
I kind of binged through it, and this is not a show that lends itself to that.
No,
No,
it
I think it's
really
a
is a
fact. I
week
think
to week show.
I really think that the way I watched it, binging it, is going to make me have it almost a half star lower than if I'd watched it week to week.
And to back you up on that, like I rewatched the first 2 episodes today just to kind of for the list and to get my head around again. Yeah, it works. It works better week to week than it does, kind of back to back. It loses its kind of impact.
It really feels slow back to back too. At least those first 2.
Oh, for sure. It felt much slower the second time than it did the first time, for sure. I was like, after this, the second time watching the first episode, I'm like, okay, here we go. Can there be like a little? Let's jump up a little bit. So I think it's much better week to week.
How do you feel about the style of this show, Adam?
I think it's great. I think it looks gorgeous. I like how they're doing all kinds of storytelling because they're not always saying everything that's obvious,
right?
But they are telling you enough that you're not scratching your head going, what am I even looking at? So enough, but they also don't spell everything out for you, which is lovely.
With the third episode, just because I just watched it today, so it's fresh. Mm-hmm. Like they have a lot of visual storytelling in that episode. The with the dust where guy shows up, puts his finger through the dust, no one says anything, no one does anything about it,
but it speaks so many volumes, just that tiny little thing right there, and they did fantastic at that.
They cut to 3 years later, there's no dust anywhere in that house, and then at the end of the show, at the end of the episode, she puts her finger she puts her finger over the thing and there's dust again. That is such good storytelling, and there's not a single word spoken. So well done.
But that will be the one that they put up for all the Emmys and stuff.
It's going to win. It's going to win the Emmy. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, it's going to win. It's going to win more than one Emmy. But any idea? I mean, it's going to be like best guest role in a
best screenplay, best writing,
best episode, best directing, best guest role performance.
I guess it would be best adapted. Probably best adapted.
Yeah, that's it. But anyway, it's going to win multiple ones, this one.
Oh, without a doubt.
But is this show getting a lot of eyes on it? Because there's a part of me that doesn't know that answer to that. Like
it passes
the right circle.
It passes the test of people are talking about it at work.
Because it feels like it could end up being like Leftovers, which is a really good show that like just not that many people watched.
It's true, but there's a different thing to this show that the Leftovers didn't have, because the Leftovers had existential dread, and this show doesn't have that. Like people,
I think it does a little bit. It's not on the same level though. You're
no, right. and there's and while this show is a bit strange, I would say that The Last of Us is a bit of a strange show. It also has the hallmarks of something that people will watch. Yeah. You have two people who are put together. You have a thing that they're trying to accomplish. It's goal oriented. There's a timeline
built on an existing IP with an already existing fan base. Yeah, good points.
And if I'm at work and people I don't know are just talking about the show, that's how I know that like people are watching the show, and that happens to this one.
We got Anna Torv in from Fringe coming in for what I thought would be, and again, this is what's great. I love this stuff where we're like, oh, here's a high profile enough actor to where you're like, she's going to be a member of this show, and you think that that's totally going to be the thing, and then 2 episodes in, guess what? You feel something then. Isn't that nice how you do that? Some shows need to figure this out. You know what I'm saying? Make me care about a character and then kill them off, or at least make me think that somebody's going to be there for a while. That's stuff like that is great. Bring in, little characters that are nothing, like no big name actors or whatever, and then make them giant characters, and take big name characters, character actors or whatever, and then just kill them off and stuff. I like things like that. Makes for a show where I don't know what's going to happen. And in a show that's kind of already happened in video game form and everything, it's good to see. Nobody's getting surprised by. Some people are still getting surprised by a couple of things that are but not like that thing, which is great.
And this is one where I think they're explaining the story well enough that you don't need the video game to enjoy the show. And honestly, it might even be one of those situations where it's easier to enjoy it if you're not super familiar with the video game, you know, because you're not going to be bothered by changes and you're not going to know where the story's going and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. You know, to get back to Torva for a minute, she has that quality to her, and I noticed it on Fringe, where whenever she speaks, like people listen. You know what I mean? Like she just has that voice to her.
She's got a weird authoritative, and no matter what accent she does as well, because like you know she does a good American accent, and you know her natural one.
It's great.
Well.
Yeah, but you know those Australians, they have a great American accent.
They know what they're doing over there.
And Bruce, have you ever seen Fringe?
No, never seen Fringe.
Oh, but
I don't really recall even much about it.
You got to see that show, and if by the end of the second episode you're not a fan of that show, then stop watching. But you will love it.
Is it about music?
No, it's okay. So you got Joshua Jackson and John Noble in it, and John Noble plays a character that you will absolutely love. A crazy if you
aren't in love, if you aren't in love with John Noble by the time that you of that at the end of that second episode, then I don't know you at all.
Well, I'll go back and watch it and report whether or not Fringe is as good as Atlanta.
It's out on Fox, right? Well,
please.
I'd love a direct comparison between it and Atlanta as well. Of like, here are the pluses and minuses of each of these.
Super high concept sci-fi show to Atlanta.
They're practically the
same
program.
Have you guys watched Atlanta?
Yes.
Yes.
We have.
Yeah, it's a sci-fi show too, and horror and stuff.
Yeah. For Bruce,
Teddy Perkins, guys, come on.
It's a new world for him out there.
It's very weird the corner that you've landed on with Atlanta. It's a very weird corner.
Okay, we saw this a couple times within these 3 episodes. I think there are too many Deus Ex moments in this where a character is just about to get it, and then right off screen they get killed by somebody else. That's happened no less than 3 times already.
Is that what Deus Ex Machina means?
It's just out of nowhere comes this savior in the last possible second.
It means God from the machine, which is saying a savior comes out.
Yeah,
something magic saves you that hasn't been set up.
Yeah, this is more like moments of that where it's just like, a lot
of people will mistakenly call like clever callbacks Deus Ex Machina. That drives me nuts because when done right, that's a good way to do it. But when a character that hasn't been introduced yet comes in and, oh, by the way, I'm your neighbor, Super Dave, and I just came to save you. That's a little more Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah. Well, but at the same time, too, that's like the friend that hasn't been on screen in 15 minutes at the last possible second comes in with the killer headshot. And that, again, that's happened no less than like 3 times. So I hope it's not always that. But while that works and is good, if you do it 15 times, it doesn't exactly have weight anymore.
Hey, remember me? I'm Richie Cunningham's older brother, and I'm here to shoot the bad guy.
Thanks, Potsy. No, he wasn't his brother. That's not how that works.
He was Chuck.
Oh, yeah, Chuck. Okay, I'm trying to think of the other... I can't.
I don't like watching Italians portrayed on TV, so I didn't see it.
No, that makes sense. On film, yes. Television, no.
Absolutely not.
Mob is no good.
I'm anti-Fonzarelli. That's what they called me in school. Look at that. That's anti-Fonzarelli.
Sorry, keep going.
We have
what the weirdest thing to get canceled over is our anti-Italianism.
I listened to the show. There were so many problems with it, but when they got to the anti-Italian stuff, I had to call the line. 1 star IMDb.
That's worse than saying all kids are dumb, you know?
These are anti-paisans over here.
Ferraris are overrated. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, no. Listen, if the Ferrari company would like to send me any one of their vehicles to crash very quickly, I would gladly take one.
Just me and Enzo rolling in the Ferrarizo. That didn't really rhyme, did it?
Not how that works at all. Like I said, I'd like to say, where do you see this show going? But Sean already knows how even the second season ends. So.
No, that's the thing. That's the thing is that I don't like. I think like I know where the second game starts. Didn't know it was the second game while I was watching it. Thought I was watching it thought I was watching the first one, but it was I don't know how they get there, and that's going to be fun. I mean, it really is.
I think this is a setup that could be pretty darn open world,
Yeah.
like you could always hit whatever beats of the game you want to hit this season, but you don't have to hit them all, and you can always go as far off on a side quest as you want because it's so open world.
It's sort of open world. I mean, there is a begin, middle, and end to those games.
I know, but what I'm saying is you can take as much time to get from point A to point B as you want to because it's open.
That said, I hope they don't overstay their welcome. Like, make it as long as it has to be, and mirror what you need to, add what you need to, take away what you need to, but make it appropriate. I don't need to see 6 seasons of this bloody thing if there's only 2 seasons worth of content.
I'm with you. I think max 85 to 90 episodes, and they can tell this story.
Oh my word, no.
Well, they've even said we're not going further than the games.
Well, that's good. Yeah, just and you can have sojourns out there that are outside of the game, which I think is fun. It makes it good for those folks that have played the game, where they can watch and still have a moment of oh.
Yeah, like for an entire season, they're out on a farm or something.
Yeah. Don't worry. When we open up this door, the whole thing's going to start working, and we're going to get back onto track. What's that? No, we're not. I'm quitting this show forever. This was my experience with The Walking Dead.
Yep, me too.
So I was like, I'm not playing this game anymore.
Yeah, at some point did a guy feed a carrot to a dog like that? That turned me off too.
Listen, dogs love carrots. I'm going to tell you this right up. You want to have a good old time? Hand your dog one of them little baby carrots. Your dog's going to go bananas.
Maybe it was another show I was watching, but a guy just pulled a carrot straight up out of the ground and fed it to the dog with the dirt still on it.
No, it's a dog. I don't think he's going to worry about the dirt too much. You know what else those dogs
stuff
eat?
From The Last of Us confused with Atlanta, so it might have been from Atlanta.
Oh, that makes more sense.
It's true.
Where was I going with that? I had something, but it was
the dog and carrots.
Dogs and carrots. I'm surprised we don't have a dog floating through this bad boy.
Yeah, I am too, actually. I would have expected that at this point. I'm glad there isn't, quite honestly.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be one more thing that you have to worry about. But another a Deus Ex Doggio, if you will, to where something just happens and then boom, we can go send Shadow to go pick up whatever the hell and bring it back.
It would be great if they just introduced a dog in episode 7 and expected us to act like it had been there all along.
And it talks.
Where's Rover? Rover's over there. Is he still doing as good as he was when we went past that guy's farmhouse? Oh, of course he is. It's like, man, Rover, I'm glad you've been with us ever since the first episode.
Still sleeping in the back seat the whole time. I can't believe he's taken this long to find batteries, though. Do we know what they're? I mean, it's a truck for a battery. Is the battery for a truck? I'm not sure what he wants this battery for.
It was for a truck.
To be able to drive across country.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It just feels like, I don't know. Feels like we should have more than that. Feels like there should be more batteries around. I don't know. Maybe it's
been a long time, like 20 years.
I know.
It's been 20 years, and the government has seized all of that stuff.
Oh, that's true. I'm battery optimistic, I guess. Thinking people aren't going to be going out and getting the batteries, but no, they probably
I will say the best line of the 3rd episode was when they were having their lovers spat, and he said, "You're just some guy running around saying the government are Nazis." And he says, "The government literally are Nazis." He said, "Well, I know they are now, but they weren't back then." It was great.
It took a while to get there, but see, I just look ahead to the future is what I do. I don't really have to.
I got to tell you, like that part before we get into the like the super emotional stuff in that episode, but the stuff where like he's hiding out, he's underground. It is exactly those moments there before his partner shows up later. Like during that time is so much like that series that I was telling you guys about, that book series Mountain Man. But the dude in Canada, the redneck in Canada, who survives the zombie apocalypse, it is so much the same thing where it's like all quiet stuff and he's just figuring stuff out. I was like, I could live here all day. So great.
I do have to say, when we first see Nick Offerman's character Bill, and like he's in town all alone and he's really kind of happy about that fact, I was really relating to that. Like I could see me being the weird guy on the first day of an apocalypse being happy about it.
I think everybody would be happy that first day.
Yeah. Like, hey man, I got it and I got this whole town to myself.
Yeah. After about a week, you start going like, oh, there's really nobody else here, is there?
I just gotta dig a big hole in the backyard to catch me a boyfriend and I'm all set.
And I got to tell you that making a trip to homies and there's nobody there. Oh,
Yeah,
that's
nice.
heaven. That's heaven. My word.
But
oh my God, and that's the big one. That's the big thing. So look, I tell you guys I'm from New England all the time. It's never like it's never helped us on the show that I'm from New England until the third episode of this show. He's 10 miles outside of Boston. He's got to go to a convenience store. That convenience store is location correct. It would be a Cumberland Farms.
Oh,
wow. Good for them.
Or as everyone says from New England, I got to make a Cumbies run. Cumberland Farms.
Oh, I the only way I know about that is my my Boston area friends who have heard speak very fondly of the Cumberland Farms.
I
got to make a Cumbies run, buddy.
I did have one problem when they showed Ellie and Joel 10 miles west of Boston, and it looked like they were in Yosemite.
Well, there are woods. There is wilderness 10 miles outside of Boston.
And 20 years worth of unkept foliage.
This has some mountain background stuff like Ethan Allen and the Green Mountain Boys. You got to be more than 10 miles out for that, don't you?
I don't know the answer to that.
Don't you know the Mountain Boys? What's wrong with you? Don't you know?
I do know
recording. Pause recording. Well, let's all meet in Baltimore. we'll chug on up. We'll chug up to Boston.
First of all, I do know Ethan Allen and the Green Mountain Boys, Adam. I will have you know. I did grow up in New England. I know who they are. What I'm saying is that I don't know how far away the Green Mountains are from Boston. I have no idea.
I'm just saying I don't know their phone number. I mean, I know their address.
So
but
if we started a podcast that was all about Ethan Allen and the Green Mountain Boys,
well, the first problem would be that I would constantly keep bringing up the furniture of Ethan Allen.
Well, that goes.
That would be a very big problem.
It's a confusing show for everyone. It just kind of starts here. It ebbs and flows. It goes a little bit about this, a little bit about that. We just go where the wind takes us.
My stage name during my brief dalliance into hip hop music, I was Ethan Allen.
One of my favorite things about Ethan Allen is that he was in charge of the Green Mountain Boys. Man, we are really getting off topic here. He was in charge of the Green Mountain Boys, and Benedict Arnold shows up, and he's just like, "Okay, I'm in charge now." And Ethan Allen goes, "Who are you?" Yeah. And Ethan Allen was not, he was not very happy. Benedict Arnold when Ethan Allen's like, "I don't think you're in charge of anything. I have no idea who you are." It's pretty great. Pretty great.
He's
anyway,
a national treasure right up there with Oliver Hazard Perry.
Well, he's Benedict Arnold from Connecticut. Yep. One of ours. That's right.
All right, before we get to our final review, we have to ask ourselves one very important question: is how this big, giant, old HBO program, and that's right, I said program, relates back 1-to-1 with Sylvester Stallone.
Well, hello, Mr. Stallone. Thank you, Adam. I have a prepared statement. I mixed those two up. Sorry about that. Hello, Mr. Stallone. It's good speaking to you again. This week's Stallone connection is someone I'm sure you know. He's one of the several special effects supervisors on The Last of Us. His name is Joel Weist. And the reason why I know that you know him personally is because he was the aerial rigger on your 1993 movie Cliffhanger. Because if there's one person of the entire crew that you really need to get to know on your movie about mountain climbing, it's the guy making the stunt rigs while you hang off the side of a mountain.
Yeah.
But what if he says something you don't care for? Maybe something along the lines that, he might have used the N-word during a meeting, but that Papa John's, he knows how to make a pizza.
Oh, man, you're really going there.
I think you need to let that slide. This guy's got his life in he's got your life in his hands. So if he says something stupid like Limp Bizkit is like a better, more modern Beastie Boys, you let that slide. Or if he says something like, "Oh my God, I had the craziest dream last night," let it slide. But it does make me wonder, Mr. Stallone, does the guy building the life-saving rigging have total autonomy to be a complete scumbum because no one is willing to call him out? Or even worse, what if he says terrible things on purpose just to see what people would say because he knows no one is going to say anything at all? Like every time Tom Cruise is like, I want to hang off the side of this airplane, but for real, is the guy standing next to him like, Queen shouldn't marry. And no one calls him out on it because he's in charge of Tom Cruise's life. Anyway, I'm getting off track, much like we did this entire episode today. This week's Stallone Connection is special effects supervisor Joel Weist. I hope to hear from you next week. Your pal, Sweet Chauncey from the internet.
And he can email us at heromoviepodcast@gmail.com. Either of them, Stallone or that guy. And I just want to talk to people. I just want people to know that
Stallone or that guy. Yeah, you're really making or that guy feel welcome.
Joel Weist, he's like, how dare you call me a scumbum?
I see. Listen, I knew it was. I heard him say Joel, but I also knew Joel was a character in the show, and my brain was going,
not letting you do it.
Am I thinking that it's Joel because it's Joel from the show, or because I didn't want to do it twice. I didn't want to be like, you moron. That's from the thing. You go, wow, he's so dumb,
idiot.
Well, we're not going to rate the show because we've only been 3 episodes into. I think this is 9 episodes this season, maybe something like that.
Sounds about right.
Sound about right. But we'll talk about that soon. But just kind of takeaways from this and what we're hoping for the next.
Before we rate it, before we get into that, did either of you guys cry watching the 3rd episode?
I might have a little bit. Like it wasn't too much, but it might have been a little bit.
Listen, I cried at tissue commercials. So, like, there was. I'm like, the song was a little bit of a. That was one, and there's moments. It's like it's a very touching episode. There's
oh my god, man!
I just don't think it belonged in this show. Is all.
This is one of my 2 soft targets. Is this subject matter, and anytime it's dealing with like parenting. But my god. Oh my God, I was bawling, crying, especially, that there's that one little moment during the show where Offerman walks by his man as he's having real difficulty painting. It's like towards the end of the episode, and he just winks at him and he keeps going. Oh my God, that got me so bad. Whew.
Quite well done.
It really was a well done ep.
But yeah, I'm excited to see where this goes. Do you think? Is there any chance? I don't know. I'm just kind of throwing it out there because he's in a lot of stuff. Are we gonna over Pedro Pascal ourselves? Can that be a thing?
I don't think so. I mean, he's in a lot of stuff, but he's not saying, "Hey, look at me," in hardly any of it. Even in The Mandalorian, he's behind a mask. So
yeah, I think
so.
At this point, come season 3, I think he's probably only the voice unless he popping that helmet off at some point again, which I would imagine.
No way, man. John Wayne's grandson is doing that.
But I mean, that's what I'm saying. For like, they would bring Pedro in for a couple of pop the helmet off moments, maybe, but everything else is just him. And I couldn't blame him. Who would really want to?
I don't think we're seeing his face. I don't think we're seeing his face for a long time.
You think we're done with that now?
I do.
I hope so.
Are you serious that it's really Estel Wayne that's doing that?
It's. I believe it's a descendant of John Wayne. That's
very cool.
That's in the costume. I believe so. Yes.
Listen, I'm like I said, between this and being in 2 different Wonder Woman things, and
I know, man, so weird.
Which is wild.
We
I love
got
that
a lot
so
of Pedro Pascal, and he's in that 6th Gun Pilot that I believe exists somewhere.
Yeah, we got that, and he's had a crazy, wild career, especially these last couple of years, starting with Nick Cage in movies and everything. The guy's been on a hell of a run, so nothing seems to be stopping him so far. So we'll continue.
I bet he's investing wisely too. Like I bet he's going to have this nice run. Then he only has to do what he wants to from here on out.
Well, he has that kind of career that Bryan Cranston did, right? Where he was just a character actor forever, and then he just blew up.
He got dirt on somebody and just blew up. I don't know what happened.
I think he rocked it as Oberyn Martell. That's when it happened for him.
That is when it happened. Yes, after Game of Thrones is when he just exploded.
Well, you get a couple eyes on you when you do that program.
I mean, he and Dinklage are the breakout stars in that show. Like, I always thought it was going to be one of the kids or something, but it's turned out to be those 2.
100%.
Turns out if you're a good actor, you're going to keep moving on.
What do you know?
Looking at you, lead of The Walking Dead. That dude, we have never seen him again.
a rough one. Well, that will do it for this episode of Hero Movie Podcast. Sean, let's go to Bruce. Bruce, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
YouTube. I got to tell you, that time I got reincarnated as a slime. Scarlet Bond. It's a movie out in theaters. And Matthew Vandiver and we did a nice video review, about a 15-minute video review of that time I got reincarnated as a slime, the movie Scarlet Bond, over at youtube.com/c/Bruce Leslie, or you can find me with my YouTube handle at Anime Dad.
Those anime titles are always so eloquent, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
Sean, what else?
Panda 1/2. We got a show called 30 Questions. And wouldn't you know it, March 1st is coming up fast.
So fast.
Which means we're going to have that show back, The Mandalorian 30 Questions, where we're going to be asking some good questions, and there'll be some stupid questions thrown in too. Questions that'll make me angry, I'm sure, at some point.
What?
Probably food-related questions, couple of food-related questions, looking at you, Portress.
Bound to happen.
And but my goodness, it's so fun. I'm so excited The Mandalorian is coming back. I had almost forgotten how much I love the show, and then kind of accidentally, I watched the new trailer for Mandalorian season 3 and was like, oh right, this show rocks.
Yeah. I'm very much looking forward to this.
My favorite Disney Plus show still.
Yes. As much as I love Andor, and my word, I love Andor. The Mandalorian's the Mandalorian, bro. And every time that recorder kicks in, hoa, hoa, hoa.
Oh man, you're making me homesick already.
So check
the
that
Mandalorian out. 30Q.
Anywhere you find podcasts. That is it, everybody. Next week, we are jumping back into a tradition for Hero Movie Podcast. Nice. Every year, first kind of bit of February, we jump into yet another Lone Wolf and Cub movie. This is the fourth one, Lone Wolf and Cub, Baby Cart in Peril from 1972. Nice. It's available on the Criterion Channel and probably on HBO as well. So that is out there. Check out Lone Wolf and Cub, Baby Cart in Peril. That'll be next week. That is it, everybody. Join us next week for some more martial arts fun action for sweet sounds of Kovacs from the internet. Bruce Leslie, I'm Adam Portress. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, Marty and Evie.
Well, no one told me about her, the way she lied. Well, no one told me about her, how many people cried. But it's too late to say you're sorry. How would I know? Why should I care? Please don't bother trying to find her. She's not there.